Appreciate it. Good morning, Sunnyside. So here's I have a question for you. What happens when you hear the word hero? Like, what do you think about? Who comes to mind? And what are the characteristics that makes that person a hero? Not me. It's okay. I know you see my cape. But when you hear the word hero, what comes to mind? What I want you to do for just a minute or two is I'm going to have a couple questions on the screen. And I want you to just have a brief conversation with some people sitting next to you. One, what kind of hero comes to mind? Who do you consider a hero? And then secondly, why do you consider them a hero? What are their characteristics or the qualities that make them a hero? So go ahead and have a conversation. So as you guys are kind of wrapping up talking about those heroes, just holler out real quick a couple. Who are some heroes, some people that came to mind? Jesus, okay, thank you. Martin Luther King, okay. Firefighters, EMTs, wonderful. Huh? Jim Elliott. I don't know who that is, but I'm sorry. Batman, okay. All right. Now, so I hear some heroes out there. I'm not sure if, as you were having conversations, if you thought about some of the same people that I did, but there's a couple people that come to mind when I think about a hero. Here's the first guy that I think about when I think of a hero. Recognize this guy? Okay. How many Star Wars fans we have in here? Okay, very good. I figure we might have a couple. Old Luke Skywalker, the man, right? Jedi Master, responsible for battling the evil empire and ultimately ending the tyranny of the Sith, right? Pretty big deal. What about this lady right here? Any Hunger Games fans? Great series. I think, Avens, did you go? That was awesome if you did that. Katniss Everdeen, if you're not familiar with her, she's the main character in the Hunger Games series. And she basically represents a character that is willing to sacrifice herself for the greater good of her people. And she ends up being able to take down an evil, corrupt government called the Capitol. She's a big deal. It's a great series. What about this guy right here? Okay. So Lord of the Rings fans? All right. All right, how about this? Lord of the Rings or Star Wars? I didn't hear anything you said, so with that, I'm sure we're split. I'm sure we're torn. Okay, Frodo Baggins, the main character of the Lord of the Rings series, is a hobbit from the Shire who inherits one of the most important rings from his cousin Bilbo and undertakes this quest to destroy the ring in order to stop Lord Sauron from taking over Middle-earth, okay? So, Frodo, what about this guy right here? Somebody mention him? Yep. Yeah, you can clap for Dr. Martin Luther King. That's fine. I heard somebody clap. For sure, one of my favorite heroes. I absolutely love Dr. Martin Luther King, and I love the fact that he was a civil rights activist responsible for bringing awareness to racial tension and segregation. He wanted so desperately to help bring unity amongst a group of people, specifically African Americans and Caucasians, who just could not seem to get along. And so I absolutely love Dr. Martin Luther King. But when you look at these pictures, we see heroes, right? Well, my question is, what happens when you look into this? What happens when you, us, all of us, when we look into this? Maybe for some of you, you see a hero. Maybe you look in here and you think, yeah, I'm a hero. I'm willing to sacrifice for the greater good of the people. I love helping and serving. And your confidence allows you to see a hero. But maybe for some of you, you think, no, I got to take that cape off and I got to hang it up because there's no way I see a hero. When I look into this mirror, I'm not good enough. I don't have what it takes to be a hero. Now, if that is you this morning, first of all, I would just like to say to you that God can do way more with your insecurities than you could ever do with your own abilities. If you look into that mirror and that's you, God can do way more with your insecurities than you could ever do with your own abilities. God doesn't need a superstar, rock star hero with all the superpowers in the world. What he needs is a willing you to take his lead. He needs a willing you to take his lead. But regardless of what you see when you look into that mirror, what if we are actually meant to see something different? What if instead of wishing and thinking we saw a hero, what if we saw what we were meant to be, which is a hero maker? A hero maker, because here's the reality. Behind every hero is a hero maker. I mean, after all, if Luke Skywalker didn't have Obi-Wan Kenobi, he may never have become a Jedi Knight, and led the rebellion against the evil empire. Or if Katniss wasn't mentored by Haymitch in all the facets of the Hunger Games, she may not have ever uncovered and ultimately overthrown the corruption of President Snow. Or maybe Frodo, if he maybe never would have made it to Mordor with the ring, leading the fight of good versus evil if he hadn't had an apprenticeship with Gandalf. Or what about Dr. Martin Luther King? He may not have gained that desire and that passion for unity among all races had Benjamin May not taken the time to invest in him, to pour into him in his spiritual and his intellectual well-being. Behind every hero is a hero maker. And I'm extremely excited to have the opportunity this morning to kick this series off because we're actually just coming off of a series you may have been around for it called Endgame, where we were evaluating our church and we were taking a look and we were seeing, okay, here's where we are, pretty or not, here's where we want to be, and what do we need to do to get there? And so I think that was a perfect segue into this series. And over the next several weeks, we're going to be looking at the lives of several men in the New Testament and looking at their model of hero making. And hopefully during this series, we can look and we can see, okay, what exactly is a hero maker and how does that apply to me? How can I be a hero maker? Now, hero makers come in all different shapes and sizes, but one thing that is consistent is that all hero makers are asking one identical question, and it's this: who am I putting a cape on? Who am I putting a cape on? Hero makers are always looking for someone to put a cape on, someone to make into a hero. Take John the Baptist, for example. A great example of a hero maker. Now, he's one of those characters I mentioned. We're going to be looking at his story and his model of hero making. And in the book of Matthew, we read about kind of his character and what he looks like. He's not the most ideal-looking character in the world, walking around with camel's hair. He's got a leather belt on, loves to eat locusts and honey. I'm not sure if that's any of your thing. But when we look at him, we don't exactly see and picture a hero. He's kind of a mountain man, if you will. Next time when you see Eric, kind of look at him. That's probably what John the Baptist looked like sometimes. So his appearance was less than special. He didn't have any particularly special powers. But what John had was an understanding of what it meant to be a hero maker. John knew from the very beginning that his purpose, what it was. And John's purpose was to make someone into a hero. A hero maker knows their purpose. A hero maker knows their purpose. Check out what it says in Matthew chapter 3, verses 1 through 3. It says this: in those days, John the Baptist came preaching in the wilderness of Judea and saying, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is near. This is the one who is spoken of through the prophet Isaiah. A voice of one calling in the wilderness, prepare the way for the Lord, make straight paths for him. John's purpose was a person. John knew from the very beginning that he was never meant to be the hero or be in the limelight, but instead was supposed to be a hero maker. John was to get people's hearts and minds prepared and ready for what Jesus had to offer when he came onto the scene. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't moments as a hero maker that we won't have to step into that hero role. That doesn't mean there aren't going to be times where we have to act as a hero. There were moments where John was a hero to people. I mean, he spent countless days in the desert, in the wilderness, preaching and teaching, preparing those for Jesus. He baptized Jesus. That was a big deal. As a matter of fact, he knew what it was like to experience the hardship of being a hero sometimes. At the end of his life, actually, he called out one of the kings for an affair that he was having, and he ultimately was beheaded because of it. So John, yes, stepped into that hero role, and there's times we're going to have to act as the hero, but his main concern was not just being a hero, it was to be a hero maker. A hero maker's purpose is a person. John's purpose was a person, and that was Jesus. My question to you this morning is, who's your person? Who's the one person or maybe multiple people in your life that you are making into a hero? Now, Jesus, of course, Jesus wasn't his only person. He had other disciples, but he was always looking for and finding someone to become and make into a hero. And John's situation was slightly different than ours in that long before John even came onto the scene, it was prophesied that he was going to be preparing the way for Jesus. So he knew his person. But what about us? How do we identify our person? How do we know who that person is? We've got to figure who that is. We have to identify. Now, I'm not saying identify in the sense of that person over there, they have what it takes. They have something to offer. I think they'd be a great hero. No, actually, everyone deserves an opportunity to be turned and made into a hero. What I mean is, who are the people in your lives that don't have someone looking to pour into them, that don't have someone to invest in them, to look to make them into a hero? Who are those people in your lives? Now, for me, a good chunk of high school, I was in a really bad place. I've talked a little bit about my story before. I was involved with some gangs back home. But during that time, I didn't think anyone was identifying me as a hero. I didn't think I had what it took to be something special until I met Chris. And Chris was the student pastor at the church that I attended to occasionally. And when I met him and had a chance to spend time with him, I realized how awesome of a guy he was. And actually, there came a moment in a time in my story, in some crazy situations, where some people were after me in the gangs. They were trying to kill me, and I didn't really know what to do, and I had no one to go to. He was the only person that I felt like I could go to ask questions, to say, dude, what do I do? I have no idea what's going on. And I went to him and I said, what exactly is it that I should do? And he told me, he said, listen, I'm not sure if they're gonna get a hold of you and kill you or not, but here's the deal, here's what I know, that you don't have to continue to live the way that you have been. And Chris was that moment, or that person, he created a moment, opportunity for me to come to him, and he'll always hold a special place in my heart. But here's the even crazier thing that I didn't learn until later on, is that a couple years before that, we were at church camp. My mom sent me to church camp, and me and a couple buddies were sitting down, talking, having a conversation. Well, in the back was Chris. He was a counselor that week, and he was talking with another counselor, and they were having a conversation, and he looked over to the guy and he said, you see that kid right there? That kid's special. That kid's got something. I don't know what yet. I wasn't sure. I'm not sure what he saw, but he looked at that kid, and he looked over and he said, that kid is special. I want to make him into a hero. I want to help that kid. I want to invest in that kid. And of course, that kid was me. Chris identified me as a hero. Chris himself was a hero maker. He knew his purpose. I, along with many, many other people, were his purpose. He identified something in me, and he saw something in me and said, I want to make that kid into a hero. A hero maker knows their purpose. Now, John not only knew his purpose, but as a hero maker, he was also available. John wasn't only looking to make a hero out of Jesus, but he had his own disciples who he was regularly available to have conversations with. Bless you. To answer questions, to equip and prepare and to get ready. In the Gospel of John, which is different than John the Baptist, he didn't write the Gospel of John, but we see John's availability on full display. And it says this in John chapter 3, verses 22 through 28. It says, after this, Jesus and disciples went out into the Judean countryside, where he spent some time with them and baptized. Now, John was also baptizing at Aenon near Salem, because there was plenty of water and people were coming and being baptized. This was before John was put in prison. An argument developed between some of John's disciples and a certain Jew over the matter of ceremonial washing. They came to John and said to him, Rabbi, that man who was with you on the other side of the Jordan, the one you testified about, look, he is baptizing and everyone is going to him. To this, John replied, a person can receive only what is given to them from heaven. You yourselves can testify that I said I am not the Messiah, but I am sent ahead of him. The first part of this passage really highlights John's availability. John's disciples were confused and had some questions about why people were going to Jesus instead of John. And John wasn't happy with that. They were putting John on a pedestal, and what John wanted instead was to say, no. It's not about me. It's about Jesus. But John was available to have that conversation, to clear up the air, to answer those questions. And he answers them and he says, listen, my ministry came from God. I have no right to promote myself or exceed the parameters of my purpose. John wants them to know that Jesus is the hero and not him. And the cool thing is that right after John clears up this confusion, he takes advantage of their time together and he actually equips these people, his disciples. He equips them. Now, there's lots of ways to equip a hero. You can encourage somebody. You can teach them, correct them, maybe some views that they have, help them have a better understanding. You can affirm in people things, say, listen, you've got what it takes, or how about let's work on this thing. And we actually, as a church, over the next several months, we're gonna be talking a lot about equipping and what that looks like. And I'm here to tell you that the leadership of Sunnyside cares very much so and has it on their hearts to prepare and equip us with what we need to be prepared to go to people, to those people not yet, so we can succeed and help them find Jesus. But in this moment, John equipped his heroes through a teaching about the authority of Jesus. He says this in verse 29, the bride belongs to the bridegroom. The friend who attends the bridegroom waits and listens for him and is full of joy when he hears the bridegroom's voice. That joy is mine, and it is now complete. John tells his disciples, listen, Jesus is in charge, not me. Jesus is in charge, not me. John equipped them with the correct and proper understanding about Jesus. A hero needs a safe place to go, to be able to have conversations, to be able to, someone to answer their questions, to equip them. And that was Chris for me. Chris was available to me on a regular basis. He let me come to his office all the time. I don't know why, I'm sure I annoyed the mess out of him, but I was there almost every single day, and he opened up his office, he opened up his home for me to come and have conversations, to answer my questions, because I had tons of them. He was available to me, and he always offered an opportunity for me to come and ask questions. A hero maker is available. Now, as a hero maker, John knew his purpose, he was available, but he also made sure that Jesus was front and center. All the time, Jesus was front and center. It was always about Jesus, and John took a back seat, if you will. In John chapter 1, John is confronted by some religious leaders about who he was. And they went to him and asked, they said, listen, are you a prophet? Are you Elijah? Like, who are you? And John answers them, he says this, he says, I'm none of those things. I'm actually just a man preparing everyone for Jesus. And the next day, John sees Jesus coming off in the distance, and this is what it says in chapter 29 through, or verses 29 through 31, it says, here he is, God's Passover lamb. He forgives the sins of the world. This is the man that I've been talking about, the one who comes after me but is really ahead of me. I knew nothing about who he was, only this, that my task has been to get Israel ready to recognize him as the God revealer. That is why I came here baptizing with water, giving a good bath and scrubbing sins from your life so that you can get a fresh start with God. John says, listen, that's him. There he is. That's the one I've been talking about this entire time. It's all about Jesus, not me. Fix your eyes on him, not me. John looked for opportunities to take the attention off himself and to direct it towards Jesus. He elevated Jesus above himself. And that's what a hero maker does. A hero maker elevates others. When you shift your mindset from being a hero to being a hero maker, then you look for ways and opportunities to elevate others. You look for ways to take a step back and say, look at this person over here. They're amazing. This person has what it takes. You need to go talk to them. A hero maker looks for ways to celebrate that person by putting a cape on, elevating and talking about their qualities, their achievements, to brag on them in front of others. This happens a lot in our student ministry. Look at that student over there. Look how they're serving their school or their community. Look at how they're doing it in their activities at school, their games, extracurriculars. They're doing such a great job. Hero makers look for a way to just be in somebody's corner, to just be in somebody's corner and root for them. There's a lot of people, unfortunately, in our world that don't have anybody in their corner. They don't have somebody pointing at them and looking at them and saying, look at that person. That person is amazing. Look for ways to be their biggest cheerleaders. John wanted people to see and know Jesus. As a hero maker, we need to look for ways to elevate people. And as a matter of fact, it was so important to John that people saw Jesus and not just him, that he says this in John chapter 3, verse 30. He says, he must become greater and I must become less. He must become greater and I must become less. John had an understanding of humility that's hard to replicate. It's hard to replicate. As humans, we like recognition. We desire praise. To see our heroes succeed, it feels good, and we like credit for that. But John said, I'm willing to not receive any credit, not willing to receive any praise, and actually even be viewed lesser than Jesus so that Jesus will receive greater praise, that Jesus will receive greater credit. A hero maker is humble. A hero maker is humble. Hero makers want to make heroes. If we want to be a hero maker, we have to be okay with giving up everything and gaining nothing. It's a big responsibility. Now, I absolutely love hearing stories about hero makers, but what I love even more is I love seeing stories of hero makers. And so I'm going to go ahead and ask a couple friends of mine to come up here on stage with me. You know who you are. Go ahead. Now, you may not know who some of these people are. You may know who some of them are. Yep. Just as important as any of the other ones. You may not know who these people are, but these are examples of hero makers. These are the people who come every week, spend hours at a time with me, loving on and leading students. These are my coaches in my student ministry. And I could absolutely not do student ministry without these guys. These are the people, and I brought them up on stage so that you could see they're just normal people like the rest of us. They're not special. They don't look special. They don't look special. They're not special, but they are special. Here's the deal. These are people who know their purpose, and their purpose is their students. These are people who are available to have conversations, to answer questions, and equip their students on a regular basis, all week. These are people who elevate their students, always looking for opportunities to lift them up, to go to their games, to be involved in their lives. These are people who are humble. It's about their students. It's not about them. These are what hero makers look like. They're looking, yeah, please. These guys are on a regular basis looking to put a cape on someone else. They're looking to make a hero out of somebody else. Now, here's the deal. I understand that being a hero maker may sound intimidating. It may sound difficult and challenging, but I want to encourage you in this way. It really isn't. It really isn't. You just have to be willing and intentional. Anyone can be a hero maker. As a matter of fact, even if you're not a follower of Jesus, if you're here this morning and you're not a follower of Jesus yet, I want to say, first of all, thank you for being here, for being willing to come and spend your time with us. We're so thankful you're here. But you too have the ability to be a hero maker. All you have to do is find someone in your life that you know, and that person doesn't have anybody. There's no one pouring into that person's life. So I'm going to step up and I'm going to do it instead. Anybody can be a hero maker, just like these guys. Young generation, older generation, anyone in between can be a hero maker. As a matter of fact, those of you in here who consider yourself to be a part of that older generation, I beg you, I plead with you, be a hero maker. Find someone in this church that, or in your life that could use someone to pour into them, to invest in them. Because honestly, us young whippersnappers up here, we could use some of your wisdom. We could use some of your understanding. We need you as hero makers. But why make heroes? Why do we do what we do? What's in it for us? Because hopefully that hero that you make will one day also look into a mirror. And hopefully when they look in the mirror, they'll remember what you did for them, and they'll think, man, I want to do that too. I want to be a hero maker and not just a hero. And then they'll go on and they'll make heroes. And then their heroes will make heroes. You kind of see where I'm going with that. I'm a hero maker today because Chris saw something in me and he made himself available to me. These guys are hero makers because somebody invested and saw something in them, and now they're returning the favor. They're doing the same thing. And my hope is that whenever you look into a mirror, whether you see a hero or a hero maker, I hope that if you see a hero maker, my question is this: I hope that you say, who am I putting a cape on? Who is it in my life that I'm looking to put a cape on? That's my son, and so that is really hard. But I hope that I can turn him into a hero so that one day, he'll look back and say, I'm super thankful that my dad invested in me and he turned me into a hero, and I'm gonna do the same thing for somebody else. So my question to you is this: who are you putting a cape on? Who in your life needs a hero maker? Let's pray. Father, thank you for these people, these coaches who spend countless hours in time and energy and patience, lots of patience with our students, Father, trying to help them know and love you. Thank you for their willingness to be humble, to look to elevate them, to be an opportunity, a place where they can have conversations and lift them up to be heroes so that, Father, one day those heroes can be heroes, and so on and so forth. God, I pray for all these people in this crowd, these people who come here and want to learn more about you. I pray that you will put on their heart, Father, to also want to be hero makers, to look in the mirror and say, I do have what it takes to help people know, love, and follow Jesus. God, thank you for sending your son as an ultimate reminder, an example and model of what it looks like to love on people and to help them love on people so that they can love on people. Continue to be with us throughout this week, Father. We love you so much, and we pray all these things in your name. Amen.